I'm going to kind of talk about that process. But my name is Dr. Sarah Turley. I'm a PGY1 at Henry Ford in downtown Detroit, Michigan. I actually spent this whole morning interviewing candidates for our own program. So the theme of my day has been interviews, but this is something I actually have been looking forward to doing a talk about, and we will get rolling. But we have some new faces on our RSO board, and some that need headshots still. But we just had our fall seminar. So if you're not familiar with the board, this is who's involved in a lot of the planning that we do, including conferences and these mentorship series lectures. Bradley already introduced himself. My name is Sarah Turley. I'm, like I said, the PASTOSA, and we have a couple other board members on here. If you guys want to jump on and introduce yourselves real quick.
Sure. My name's Janelle. I'm now the VP of the RSO board, and I'm just happy to have everybody here and welcome our new members with us. We're really excited to have them.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily. I'm now the GME chair, and I'm very excited to be joining the board.
Cool. All right. We will get started with interview season. I always like to say, you want to know where you're getting your. Oh, wait, Manny's on here. Manny, go ahead. Sorry, I just saw you pop in. Belated.
No, all good. Hey guys, I'm Manny. I am one of the conference chairs. Happy to be here.
Thanks, Manny. I saw your little happy face pop in. All right. Anyway, every time I do any type of lecture, I always like to let you guys know where you're getting your information from. Advice is good, but good advice is better. What are my credentials for talking about interviews? I did 18 interviews as an applicant. I matched at my number one program. I was ranked to match at a couple programs. I think I was pretty successful throughout my interview trail, thankfully, with the help of lots of good mentorship. So I'm hoping that I can kind of pass on their pearls and wisdom to you. In addition, I do interview applicants, spend about 5 hours today going through lots of applicants and hearing the feedback from both my clinical staff and the residents and getting to see that more on an administrative side and what we're seeing on residency casts as you guys are going through interviews. So I think I have a fresh perspective kind of, from last year as an applicant, this year as an interviewer to give you guys the best foot forward in your interview season. There's 142 days till match. I think that's really exciting. You guys are in like the ramp up portion of this. Interviews are going to fly by quick. You're going to make the list and then you're going to wait, and it's going to be really exciting. But if any of our fourth years are on the call right now, and want to just share, like, how have interviews been going? I know you guys have conducted some of them. So, I mean, is there anything that like you guys have been experiencing, specific questions you have before I move into anything, or like things you're looking to get out of this lecture? I just wanted to pull, if nothing, cool, I can move through, but just how has it been going out there?
Going good so far. I have yet to have an in-person one, so that'll be interesting. Outside of my ones that I done on my sub-I, and those were so chill and not really an interview at all. So, just looking to see what an in-person interview will be like. That sounds really fun.
Nice. Are the majority of you guys is virtual, in person? You guys can throw in the chat too, like anything as well.
Yeah, so definitely I'd say the lion's share are virtual,
Okay.
but I do have a couple in-person interviews lined up. And then also I guess I'm trying to get out of this. I guess I would say how to make the most of your time, because something that I've kind of learned is that you really only have about like 10 to 15 minutes with each interviewer, and that does not seem like enough time, especially virtually.
hmm Yeah, that's a really good point. I think they fly even quicker too when you're actually in them. Then 15 minutes is a lot quicker. Anyone else want to share anything? And feel free to ask questions as we go through, throw them in the chat. I'll keep watching, but we will keep moving on. So interviews for anyone who hasn't done them, they're kind of all set up about the same, 10 to 15, 20-minute sessions, depending on, if it's faculty, the PD, usually around 2 to 4 faculty. Like I said, this varies program to program, and any fourth years in there, feel free to throw things in the chat, like things you've experienced, any outliers too. I think it's always good to share our own experiences as we're all going through this process. You also talked about 1 to 2 residents. It's usually a full day to half a day. They're long days for anyone who's sat through those interview days, especially, virtually in front of a camera. It's really hard to keep attentive and energetic, and they're pretty jam-packed days. But I always say, print out your agenda, know where you're supposed to be, know when things are up. It's a great way to keep your day organized. Interview tips. So setup and attire. I am a big fan of the ring light. If you want to be that extra person, people do great without the lighting. I am using one right now. I think it really just puts a great face forward and it looks professional, especially if you're kind of moving around for audition season and you're in an Airbnb in an attic. Like, who knows where you're going to be at? I like it. I think it adds a little bit extra razzle dazzle, but not required. The background, pleasant but not overly distracting. I would say my background's probably a little bit too much going on. I think because it's books, it's fine. But like make sure you don't have a lot going on in the background. No like laundry on the bed. Like if you're in front of something, make it look good because this is part of your application as well as what you're displaying on the screen. So like if you have hobbies, like you can have your guitar in the background, like you can have your artwork in the background, like statement pieces, things like that. But make sure that you're still the focus of the interview. Same thing with attire. Making sure you're not dressing professionally, always, guys, suit and tie, nice collared shirt, keep it clean, not super distracting. Women, be aware of like, your dress clothes, wear something nice, not super, distracting patterns or things like that. I am a stickler to where, like this is a job interview. You're going to dress very formal, business professional. That's the way that it's done. You can show some flair. Like I wear like like a blue blazer or something like that. Like you can add color and have fun with it, but keep it professional. Don't worry about the bottoms. I went in sweatpants for all of interview season. No one's going to make you stand up. It's okay to wear, the COVID interview bottoms. And then no distractions, like if you're a girl who plays with their hair, like I always had my hair pulled back because I would like play with it and try to fix it in the camera. Jewelry, if you're a ring person like I am, you'll probably see me fiddling with my rings. I do that a lot. So wearing those, taking those off for interviews as well is really important. Setting up your volume, chargers, everything like that. Making sure there's no echo in the room, very basic stuff, but like people come on to these interviews and I can't hear them, I can't see them, they look a mess, get it together. This is a job interview. Speaking of a job interview, this is, I think, a really big thing that everyone should take into consideration. You are applying to be a doctor. Act like it. Be professional. Go in there prepared. Have the ring light. Have the, nice suit jacket on. Have everything prepared and present yourself as such. I think emergency medicine, we get away from the fact like it's chill. We're ER. Like we are, but you're an ER physician. You're applying for a job as a doctor. Come in, act professional. Remember that's the element we're in right now. These are just some funny pictures from my interview setup. You could see like I was on an audition, so I had to use like a shoebox to like prop it up and like finding the right background and like it was holiday, so I actually made it easy. I wore the same suit jacket for every interview and it made my, mornings easy. I knew what I was throwing on. It was comfortable, so don't feel like you have to put a lot of work into it. Presenting yourself on camera. This was actually something that I picked up a lot on today as we were interviewing candidates, and a lot that my faculty picked up on. Your body language and the way that you're presenting yourself on camera is a big thing that people are actually paying attention to. I didn't really ever think that as an interviewer. I thought, answers matter a lot, but like all this stuff is just extra fluff. It does really matter. They want to make sure you're someone who can present themselves and articulate themselves in a manner because think about it. These are the people talking to patients, wearing their name on their badge. You need to be able to present yourself. So, body language, making sure you're sitting up. Don't have, the hand in your chin. That was some people we saw today. Like that doesn't show interest. Don't be turned to the side. Make sure that, you are straight in front of your camera. Don't be looking off on a screen. We literally knock down for that. Make sure that you are focused 100% on the interview. Notes are okay, but if you're somewhere else when I'm speaking, like I can tell. Energy, smile, push yourself. A lot of the, people who stood out on interviews are the people who are fun to talk to and bring energy. It is a long day. Trust me, we are sitting through as many conversations as you are. Bring some energy, bring some fun, force yourself to get through this. I think interviews are one of the most exhausting parts of this process. So like if you're feeling like the upper SpongeBob over there, like you need to like suck it all in and present yourself as like this clean, shiny, happy, ready to go person. I always made sure to have like a big smile right when I was on. Like Hi, like Sarah, nice to meet you. Like really making sure I brought energy. So just remember that as you're going through your interviews. Remaining professional, even if you know your interviewer. If you have auditioned with this person and you're cool and you're hanging out with them, remember the slide before you're interviewing to be a doctor. Keep that in the same playing field. Don't go in there and be like, "What's up, my bro? Like, how's it going?" Like, you can if they initiate it, but don't bring that energy off the bat like this is interview day. Introduce yourself to the people you're talking to. A lot of students will just start talking, "Oh, I had a question about didactics. Who are you?" Like, even just, formality things. This is a conversation, even though it is on Zoom. Like, make it that way. General interview tips. I need to practice these myself. I think public speaking is an art and a gift and something that I would love to learn how to do super well. And it's something we all should learn how to do super well because you are probably doing one of the most important public speaking jobs, and it's telling patients information and telling people really valuable information. So start now if you're not, into that type of thing, but practice speaking to yourself out loud. It's not being weird. It's being prepared, especially those questions you know you're going to get. Why EM? Tell me about yourself. Why the program? Listen to your cadence. Listen to how you're coming off when you're speaking. Avoid those filler words. I know it's, hard to get out the ums and the likes, but try your best. If you slow down, that can usually help. Pausing is your friend, especially over Zoom where, people are cutting in and out and you don't want to cut off someone. So say your answer, take a pause, say the next answer, leave some space for conversation and articulate your words, especially over Zoom. Be confident, use your interviewers' names. Thank you, Dr. Johnson. It was a pleasure speaking with you today. Hi, Dr. Johnson. It's great to meet you. If you don't know, hi there. Can you help me pronounce your last name? This is still a conversation, even if it's virtual. Research your interviewers ahead of time. This is a big plus. If you get a list and you know you're interviewing with Dr. So and so, I always go on there. What are they interested in? Is it ultrasound? Maybe that's something I'm going to ask them about. Where did they train? Do we have any similarities? I know it's maybe a little creepy, but I think it's something that's important because these are people who are going to be evaluating you and you want to put your best foot forward. Like I said before, print out a schedule, hard copy just to have so you don't have to be, searching through your email for a schedule on a different screen. Be friendly if there's a dull in conversation. The worst parts about interviewing are when you're sitting there and, all right, that's all we have, like trying to fill in conversation. Think about something funny, ease your way in there. Oh, you know what? Actually, if we have a sec, something I forgot to ask, in the last interview, or because then it doesn't seem like, you're filling space. It's more so you're taking an opportunity to ask a question. It's okay to pause, like I said, and think about your answers, especially tougher questions, and know who to contact if you're having technical difficulties. You do not want to be searching for that person when, you're supposed to be in an interview. Have that stuff ready to go, have that phone number, have that email ready. What are you going to be asked? And like, feel free, like I said, to jump in if you guys have noticed like any trends at all. But I feel like this is kind of the different types of baskets that you're going to find your questions in. Your expected questions being an emergency medicine applicant, and then a couple of these trickier, fancier ones that we're going to walk through together. The expected questions, tell me about yourself. Are they still asking this? Yes, when you guys start interviews, like off the bat? Yes, maybe so. I feel like this is usually how they start with it. But I think it's really good to practice this, especially, this is your sales pitch, and sometimes this is a great way to set the tone for the interview. Mine, I like to keep it a little bit of, some extra. So this is kind of my format for that. Tell me about yourself. My name is Sarah Turley. I'm originally from Florida, but I moved up to Ohio, went to undergrad in, University of Mount Union where I played basketball. Then went to medical school in Tennessee. I decided to go to medical school because my dad did this, and I was in love with emergency medicine from his influences. I had enjoyed doing these extracurriculars. In my future, I like teaching. I love emergency medicine, and I want to continue to do that, blah, blah, blah. And then I like to add the fizzle at the end. Like outside of medicine, I got a dog named Frank. We like to walk down to the dog park. I like to cook and watch reality TV, but that's kind of like my life outside of medicine because it ends that conversation on something fun and something they can grab, especially if they're not, ready to prompt you with a question topic or they only have one. We are looking for conversation with you. Give us something to go off of. So if you didn't really ever, put this question out and work it through, consider doing some type of layout like this. I think it's cool to add some personal things, cool to add, this is where I'm coming from, so they don't have to go and look and spend the time looking. They already know what you're passionate about and what to ask you about. Okie dokie. Oop. So, other expected questions, we're not going to go through a lot of this in detail. YEM, just make it personal. They're going to ask this a million times. Know the specialty specifically. If you say I like emergency medicine because I want to work a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, everyone's gonna be like, what? What do you mean? Like that's not emergency medicine. So know the specialty if you're gonna, name things that are perks, but the same thing, high intensive energy, procedure heavy, seeing everything, community doctor, we can do it all anytime, anywhere. You guys all have your reasons why. Why this program? Please do your research. And when I mean your research, your specific research, not just where they're located, okay? Know the differences between different programs, know the comparisons between ones you rotated with, different auditions. Use that to kind of say why this program. Use caution when you're talking about these other programs. Don't say, I didn't like the other level 2 trauma center I had because of blah, 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 and I like you guys more. That's why I want to go to you guys. Just, make it respectful if you're going to be commenting on those things. Location is always a big one. I want to practice in Metro Detroit. Or the setting, I want to be in an academic setting. If you guys are kind of, looking for more clarification, whether, your site is an academic, community, or county, go on their website, look into what those terms mean, and you can usually figure out what your place is. Fellowships, extracurriculars, if you like, street medicine and they have a great street med program, bring that up. The way they do training, whether it's graduated responsibility, whether they do a lot of research, whether they do a lot of like chop shop, community doc stuff. These are all things you can bring up and things you need to research because they want to hear these specific answers. Also talk about the residents or any audition experience you have. They will know if you hadn't like don't do your research. I've had interviews where they knew, and it was definitely embarrassing because they ask you, well, why not the program down the road who's very similar to us? You can't just get away with sometimes the skin of your teeth. So if you're really interested in a place, make sure you know your stuff about them. And we'll note that too. Like if applicants like ask questions and are informed on the program already, like, oh, I know you guys work 18 to 19 shifts, like how's your sign out culture? Like that shows me that you did your research. Like I'm going to bring that up. General things to know about a program. This will be available to you after the lecture. I won't, go through all of this stuff, but like just some general tips and tricks, a fact sheet you should have before starting the interview. I always had like a nice little one sheet that I wrote down notes on before my interview about the program, why I liked them, specific things like that just to note on throughout the interview. So these are things that you should maybe pay attention to. And like I said, if you don't really know the style of training, look up these terms and really get familiar with them. And your interviewers, look up your interviewers. All right, what are they asking? So the tougher questions, these are kind of the buckets, or at least how we kind of refer to them in like the GME world, but like the problem solving questions, the cultural awareness, feedback, achievement, failure, future plans, strengths and weaknesses as well as on there. But this is what we're actually asking about these questions. Can you adapt and have good critical thinking skills? Can you interact and work with different people? Can you learn from failure? Are you resilient? Or are you just going to shut down? Are you driven and motivated? Do you have aspirations and passions? Like, what can you bring to me? These are what these questions are asking. So remember that when you're answering them. I think we get so focused on the story and trying to answer the question, but what do they actually want to get out of this? So, in general, with these tougher questions, be honest is always a big start. If you're going to make up a story and all these stuff, like make sure it's believable because they can smell through the BS from a mile away. Avoid the typical story, be authentic to yourself, be individual, add in those little unique characteristics. You're telling a story in a lot of these answers. Avoid the hero complex. I saved the patient. I did this and no one else did. I saved the child from the burning building because the firefighter said he wouldn't do it. Avoid painting these pictures in a light that makes someone look inferior than you. This is a really quick way to kind of get dinged down. Like you don't want to paint someone in a picture where, you're doing better than they are and you're saving the world because that's not the point of this. It's to see, your achievements. Answer the question, don't beat around the bush, especially if it's something you're not sure how to answer. Come out and say that. A confusing answer is worse than, just saying that you're not really sure how to answer that. Have a structure in your answers, especially those longer winded ones like future plans and failure, things like that. Don't ramble off into storyland. A hook, what happened, how it ended, and how you learned from it. Make sure you have those pathways and you're following those arc, and it'll stop you from those long worded answers. Problem solving questions. Tell me about a time when you were doing something that didn't work out. You made a plan, you had to change it, you had to solve a problem. Sometimes they'll be very blunt and say it. Somehow, some way, you might be approached with a way that you had to fix something or change a route or solve a problem. We are seeing how you're adapting. Are you good at being creative? Like, how do you view the world? Like, are you a person who takes a big step back and is like, okay, this is the big picture? Or, oh, I was in the moment and I figured this out. It's a great way to see how a person, thinks and looks at problems. How do you react to adversity when things don't work your way? How do you go about workflow? Are you a leader, helping direct people in the right way? Do you have critical thinking and are able to, take on complex problem solving? So these are what we're getting out of the year. So you could see where, your answer depends on a lot of what we're looking out for this. So make sure you have a good patient experience. It doesn't have to be medicine either. It can be something, when you were a waitress at a bar in college. Like those are honestly sometimes even better. These are big problems where you need to avoid the hero complex. You didn't just discover TB, trust me, like everyone else has seen it too. Like you just need to make sure that you're coming across as a humble person who's trying to help and figure something out. Be specific about the problem and the solution. Don't beat around the bush. Don't say the patient with the complex thing. Be like, I had a patient with this really weird lung disease, and this is what it was doing, and this is what it looked like, and it smelled like. You're painting a picture. Avoid being long-winded. Culture awareness, this is the question that I feel like I always was super spooked about just because, with my specific background, I felt like this was kind of more of a weakness for me. And I feel like these questions are sometimes hard for us to answer. You don't want to upset anyone or say the wrong thing. But, they're big questions to ask because we are the ER and you will deal with a lot of cultural diversity. So this is a question you will probably find on your interviews. So tell me about a cultural disagreement, a time you were misunderstood. I got that one. You interacted with someone of a different culture. You got in a disagreement with a coworker or a boss, or, there's a lot of ways you can word it, but I want to see how you're interacting with someone different than you, how you react to something new, how you react to change. Do you understand like when you don't know something and you see that there's a gap in your knowledge and understanding of, cultural awareness, and can you react to that and make growth, educate yourself, do what you need to do. Um, and I think conflict resolution again is a big thing with these disagreements with coworkers. So when you're answering these things, be honest again. I got a question like this somewhere along my interview trail, and it was, I think, about interacting with someone, from a different country or first time visiting, like seeing a different country. And I don't have a lot of travel experience. I grew up in a pretty, suburban neighborhood, went to med school in a pretty suburban place. It's not really changing. It's all Northeast. So I was very open and honest with them and said that I didn't have a lot of experience, culturally, and that's something I want to grow on. And I think they respected that. So if you can't answer it specifically, be honest and try to still tie it back to your life. Be specific again, don't be vague. Avoid being long-winded. Think about your answer. What do you want them to get out of this? Is it because you learned how to communicate? Talk about the conversation more. Is it because you learned about a different culture and the way they do things and patient preference and values? Talk about the patient interaction. Focus on what you want them to get out of this. And it's these things right here: respect, humility, curiosity. Are you willing to learn? Are you willing to, work with other people? And then again, avoiding hero complex, people that are lower than you, relating to people like that. Like that's not how you want to come across as an applicant. Failure and feedback question. This is again another one. Think about something in your head. I'm giving you guys these specific examples because these are just good stories to have, brewing in your head when you're driving or you're getting ready for an interview. Like think about these different stories that might come up. But time you failed, a mistake where you learned from it. Remember, all of these, you need to paint this in a positive light. There are so many times when students come on applications, and a lot of the feedback that, I see these people get is they just, the surgeon who was mean and didn't like what they did, and they had to like just take it tough and like just learn to be better, or, they were told that they did something wrong and they knew it was right, but they just talked to their senior and their senior like stood up for them. You are not the hero. Like you are accepting feedback, point it in a positive light. I learned something today. I learned something from that experience. I got better in that experience. I saw a different perspective in that experience. Make sure you're tailoring these words specifically to a positive light. These details matter, and these are the things we're looking for because I know we talked at the beginning, this is only a 15-minute period. So that one sentence you say about failure may have a big play on what my perception of you is as an applicant. Okay, achievement, future directions. This one again, like, what do you want to do in 5 years? What kind of doctor do you want to be? You can talk about fellowship stuff here. We want to see that you have aspirations and goals, and where are you going to end up after your residency here? Are you going to stay here? Are you going to work? Like, what are we going to get to see you doing as an alumni? It also kind of gets a look into like family and what you kind of want to do with your life. So make sure this answer is structured and organized. I always thought like the 5 year plans one, just having a really good one off the bat, like I want to be a doctor, maybe get involved in this. This is what I want to do with my personal life. Like I want to move maybe somewhere here, or I want to have a pool or whatever I want to do. And that's my 5 year plan. Be organized. Make sure that you're also tailoring that answer to your program. Maybe, at the tinier community site that is really about these community rural doctors, you don't say that you want to do academic critical care research and that's 100% what you want to do. Those kind of aspirations may not match up. So make sure you know that you are tailoring these things to the actual program and their mission statement. Biggest weaknesses and biggest strengths. Strengths, you guys know your strengths, be proud about them, whatever it is, there's no bad answer. Weaknesses, don't try to play the trick. You guys know your weaknesses, like don't use maybe the really, really bad weakness, like, I lose everything or I do something, but like get something that is true to you, but also not maybe the one that you don't want to say. So I think for me, it was always like, I am a procrastinator, which I do sometimes, like, and I talk about like, I have to have everything on my phone. Like, if I don't have it on a calendar on my phone, I will forget it. So it's like giving a solution to that too is also a great way to frame a weakness. Other weaknesses that I've heard that I actually appreciated from students were, like I'm not good with like keeping up with the times, like technology changes and like especially like with Anki and all the new stuff now, like learning to keep up with like changes in tech and curriculum. Like that was an interesting one. Um, there was another really good one I heard today. Oh, a person was like, I'm very OCD. I like to keep my house clean. I like to keep my kitchen clean, but when I come into the ER and everything's a mess, it stresses me out. So I just have to remember that I'm at work. So that was like a funny one, but it's a fun weakness. So there's a lot of ways that you can kind of turn little pettier weaknesses into weaknesses here. All right, the worst part about interviews, you have 10 minutes left. It's like the third one. And they say, all right, with all the time we have left, this is for your questions for us. And you've just spent the last whole night researching everything about this program and you know everything and you spent time talking to the residents and the social and the Q&A and you have no idea what to say, but you don't just want to sit there. So what do you ask the residents and the attendings when they ask you these questions? I will make sure that you guys have this PowerPoint I posted to the website so you can look back at these. But these are just some different questions that you can ask when you're trying to have those time fillers. And as a resident, please use them. Please give questions. It's just so much easier. I know they're not, coming prompted, but I mean, a lot of these things are cool things to be interested. The city, the food, working with attendings, these are all things you guys should care about. So if you don't know the answer to some of these questions, consider, having them by your side. I always kept like a list of questions I wanted to ask so you weren't scrambling in the meantime, but things that can spark conversation. I always say like a fun one is like if I'm coming to Detroit, like what's the one place like if I could only eat at one place, where would you recommend? Like if I'm really trying to fill time. Maybe don't have that as your starter question to the PD, like use it for something meaningful, but like if you're trying to fill time, these are some fun questions you can ask. Another big one is like off-service rotations. I think that that's one that maybe doesn't get touched on in terms of like selling the program and application season. Food on shift is always important. And then like how do you like living in the city? These are your questions for your attendings. I always like to ask, especially the PDs, like, where do you see the residency going, like in the future? Do you have any like new programs, like specific goals that you want to see, like while you're in leadership? I think that shows like your commitment to the program as a whole, and it gives them something to speak on that they're passionate about. Um, Always like, mentorship. Like if I want to do a fellowship, well, am I going to be supported through the application process? Is there good networking with alumni? Didactics, do you feel like the residents are prepared for boards? I love asking the faculty what they think about the residents and like what do you think about your residents? Like what's your favorite thing about them? Like I'd love to see how the faculty reflects on their residents. I think it tells you a lot about how connected they are with them. If they're like, oh, they're smart, they do a good job, like they're like, oh my gosh, I love them. They're like my kids. Like, it just gives you a different perspective. So let them gush about the residents a little bit. I think it's a fun question to ask. Post interview, you just finished, you're done, you put your hands back, you finally drop your smile and you've been aching for hours in your cheekbones. you guys need to keep some type of documentation down about what you went over in your interview. I always like to put who I interviewed with, if they gave me an email or some type of contact, and then a brief note about what we talked about, especially if it was a specific question I asked that they expanded on. Like, for example, if I asked them about their ultrasound curriculum and they told me all the cool things they're doing about ultrasound, I write those down. I do that number one so I can remember it for the rank list. Number two, for your thank you notes. I was always told, and the advice that I tell other students is thank you notes go a long way. It's not something, that's mandatory, but I think it's something that's nice. So at the end of the interview, sometimes they give you those email contacts. Feel free to email them. I loved actually like writing them thank you cards. I think there's something really wholesome about that and like very classic. So you can also send them thank you cards if you want to do that. But you can talk to the coordinator and ask them the best way that they'd like to be reached for thank you cards. Sometimes they'll tell you don't send them, feel no need. Great. But I think it's a respectful thing to do. Don't be weird about it. Don't like wait like a month and be like, hey, remember me from the interview? I just want to say thank you. Don't be weird. Send it to the day of or the at least, the next day or two. Don't use it as like a weird, creepy ploy to like get back in their like minds. Like just say thank you and be done with it. Social events, I always was told that like a polite rule of thumb of if you're interviewing at a place, attend at least one social event that they have, whether it's like a Q&A, a virtual thing, or like their in-person second look or virtual second look. I think it's just the polite thing to do, especially if they're holding social events that are optional for applicants. If you interview, go to one. If if it's a program that's maybe lower on your list, don't feel it's so necessary, but some programs I know when I was interviewing last year, they had them like the night before. A couple I wasn't aware of until they were like, oh yeah, this week we have interviews. The night before we're gonna have social events. So be prepared for those. Ask meaningful questions when you're there. Talk to the residents. It's weird for everyone involved. Like just make it cool, chat, be open, laugh, react to other people, ask the other students questions, interact with them. I think it makes it helpful if everyone's kind of eased. So if you're an outgoing person, use these opportunities to help your other students too, who maybe don't like those environments as much. Um, if it's a in-person social event, remember that you're still being watched. Have fun, but be media trained. Don't get super trash. Don't start screaming on the bar, all those things. You guys are smarter than this, but we have to say it because it happens all the time. I saw it during my application season. You're going to see it during yours. Don't be that guy. Second looks, second looks are usually December through February. They usually wait till after, like closer towards the end of application season is over. The programs will usually send you out dates or they'll tell you on your interview, like, oh, these are our days we're doing second looks. This is an opportunity for you to see the program, the hospital, especially if you didn't do a audition there. If you're considering them as a program and you interviewed with them, I would consider going, especially if you didn't audition with them. If you did audition with them, you probably don't have to go. But always feel those situations out in terms of like what you think would be best and your likelihood with matching with them. They're usually really fun events, breweries, tour the hospitals, meet and greets, great food. It's kind of like your opportunity to be like wined and dined and like get in the job market. So it's a fun time. So if you can go and afford it and it works out with the schedule, definitely go to the second looks. Dress casually, but nice. I always call it like dinner with the in-laws, jeans, a nice shirt, a sweater, whatever it may be. It's still, trying to impress these people. You are still a physician, applying to be a physician. This is kind of the blanket statement that is out there. This event, you going to this event will not change your rank position. I think that is their position and we can agree with them and there's no technical rule that says that they have to have it in, but if you want my formal opinion, I think that going to these events can definitely change your trajectory in your application. I think that there were a couple programs that I probably wouldn't have ended up mine specifically matching at, if I didn't go to a second look. So going to these are really important. I think especially not only for you, but for the program too, to just get a look at you. So it helps us meet applicants. But as far as I know, my program doesn't change it. I don't know, how that works on an administrative side, but I'm sure if someone comes in a like big walking red flag, like they have time to change it. So just be aware that there's a possibility. All right. That was a lot of information. I wanted to go through like those specific questions just so you can feel like what you should be brainstorming in your head, what you should be thinking about during interviews, as if you haven't had a lot already to kind of get the format and the feel of things. But just remember to be yourselves. This is a process where you can come off very superficial. People can see that. If you come off nervous, people can see that. Just go in there, be yourself. You've already done all the hard work. The boards are taken, the application is filled. They looked at everything that you are on paper and said, yes, I just need to meet the guy. Enjoy that. Like go in with a little bit of pep on your shoulders and be proud of what you're presenting to these people and trust the process because I truly think you'll end up where you need to be at the end of the day. Remember that all these lectures that we do monthly can be found on the RSO homepage. I will post this one pretty quickly because I know we have interviews rolling in pretty hot and heavy right now. This is my email and my phone number if you guys have any